I want to talk to you about what it means to be addicted to achievement, why this is so harmful to our mental health, as well as our progress in our private practices, and how we can ditch this desire for achievement addiction. My name is Gina, and I'm a registered dietitian that has been in private practice for the past decade. And if you're serious about starting your private practice, definitely click that subscribe button below. I drop new episodes every Wednesday to help you start and grow a successful dietitian private practice. So, this is an area that is very near and dear to my heart. I think a lot of coaches talk about ditching perfectionism, uh, ditching imposter syndrome, and maneuvering in that realm to kind of support a done is good enough approach. And I think that's great. Yes, perfectionism is the lowest standard that you can possibly have because perfectionism doesn't actually exist. But there's other caveats in there as well that are just as invasive and harmful to our progress in our private practice that I think are oftentimes overlooked. To illustrate this a little bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about my history and how this contributed to who I became as a dietitian, as well as my growth in a dietitian private practice. So, throughout my young adulthood, I guess you could say, I was completely addicted to work, achievement, being the best. Now, I do want to say that I do not think I ever identified as a perfectionist. And the reason why is I just didn't have the opportunity. I think that if I would have had the time and the resources to be a perfectionist, that would have totally been my jam. But I did always ascribe to the done is good enough approach. But the reality was that my threshold for done was so much higher than most of my peers around me that my done looked a lot like perfect. So I'm going to illustrate a little bit about what this looked like for me and how this impacted my mental health and development. So, fun story, I actually am a teen mom. So I got pregnant with my daughter right before I graduated high school. I actually walked through graduation with my daughter on board, and I became a mom while I was in college. But the funny part of this story is that I actually became a mom during winter break of my freshman year in college, a single parent. And I remember being pregnant and my advisor telling me that it wasn't going to be possible for me to go to school the next quarter. Now, the best way to get me to do something is to tell me that I can't, because back in those days, I was always trying to prove something to everyone. Now I try to prove nothing to anyone, and we'll get to that later. But back in those days, I was going to prove to you that not only could I do it, but I could surpass 99% of my peers. And so when my advisor told me that I needed to take a break because I was about to have a newborn baby, all I heard was a challenge, which is exactly what happened. So during my freshman year of college, pregnant first quarter, had my daughter over winter break, and went back to classes a week and a half later. And one of the most pivotal memories that I had was I never wanted to interject anything in my life because, of course, I had something to prove to somebody all the time. And so, my tradition was that I would make a surplus of like holiday goodies, Christmas cookies, 20 to 30 batches of these cookies assortment that I prided myself on. So not only did I go back to school a week later, my daughter was born on December 22nd, and I decided I was going to do my entire smorgasbord of cookies before the Christmas holiday on December 25th. So one day after giving birth to my daughter, I began my festivity celebrations, and I completed that, of course, because I was an overachiever and I did everything that I said I was going to do ever. Not to mention that was when full throttle, my eating disorder jumped on board. And when my daughter was 4 days old, I decided I was going to get back into my pre-pregnancy body and started working out at the gym, running 4+ miles a day, multiple hours a day. When my daughter was 4 days old, I would just bring her to the gym and I would drop her in her car seat right next to my treadmill, and that's what we would do. Now, that is an eating disorder. I do apologize if that is it triggering to anyone, but that is kind of where that path took me. And the reality is I do work in eating disorder care now, but honestly, it's very, very similar to the coaching that I do for dietitians wanting to start private practice, because a lot of it is that perfectionism, that overachieving, that wanting a control, etc. So it is very, very correlated. Almost all of the same agenda is in both topics. So that's where that kind of started. I did suffer from eating disorders as well. Anorexia to binge eating to anorexia to binge eating for over 15 years. It's not really relevant to the topic of this conversation, but it kind of is because, again, the control, the overachievement. So I decided not only that I was I going to return to college 1 week after my daughter was born, but I was also going to pursue 3 degrees. My advisor also told me that was impossible. That is what I did. I have a psychology degree. I have an anthropology degree. I have a nutrition and dietetics degree. I have a master's in nutrition as well. So I have a lot of degrees. And not only that, but I did graduate valedictorian. So I have this crazy addiction, or had. I like to pride myself on being a recovered achiever. So I very, very much go against that at this point. I very much ascribe to the done is better than perfect, but not only that, I only focus on a very, very strict set of things that I feel I am good at, that I enjoy. And I have a very strict policy that if I don't love it, I leave it. If it is not a hell yes, it is a no. And if it remains no for more than 3 days, that goes. So I work in my zone of genius always, because I will be a person that will do all of the things and feel like I need to check off all of those boxes. I very, very much ditch that mentality at this point. So much so that I will not even converse about what degrees I have, what honors I've received, and I've gotten a lot. I am the scholarship honors queen. But I won't even converse about those because they are so irrelevant to who I am as a business owner, as a person. They're not something that I pride myself on any longer, because that is not where I measure my worth. And that's what I really want to talk about today is we can get all of the things, but there is no trophies for those. Believe it or not. Yeah, you might get some scholarships and some awards and things like that if you're in college, but in real life, there are no trophies for these things and no one is keeping score. So stop it. You're actually not serving anyone by being the best at everything and overexerting yourself. You're just sending out a lot of half-ass shit, to be honest. And so that's what I really had to learn. And most people, when they meet me now, they don't think I'm very intelligent when I meet them. And I love it. I love it because I am not in the convincing business. I am not in the convincing business because I know that I know my stuff. I know that I know what I'm doing. I know that I'm doing what I love. I know that I'm helping and serving people. And I know that I'm taking people from point A to point B without all of that achievement involved. That achievement did absolutely nothing for me. Yes, there were some things that I was passionate about. And yes, I am a big fan of formal education. But the way that I did it in the pursuit that I forced myself to achieve quite literally almost ended me. I mean, I was waking up in the middle of the night to nurse my daughter, doing tests and papers and things like that at 3 in the morning to achieve this status that I thought meant something about myself. No one cares. Like literally no one cares that I was the valedictorian. And in fact, I joke about this, not to like tout it or anything like that. I actually didn't even know that I was a valedictorian until 5 years after I graduated and I requested records for a job. That's how much pride I actually put into getting the award. But for some reason, I was always in this competitive zone. What I want to tell you about running a private practice is the people that are most successful are not competing with each other. They're collaborating. So the biggest thing that I had to learn when I got out of college was to unlearn everything that I learned in college. Those grades, the competitiveness, the scholarships, all of those things that said you are worthy are quite frankly BS. And it really ticks me off these days. It really does, because so much of what I learned was not conducive to actually helping people and moving people from a problem to a solution. So, while I work mostly with eating disorder patients, I have the same motto for my eating disorder patients that I do for the people that I coach in private practice. And that is relax, nothing is under control. Your desire to control is keeping you stuck. It is keeping you in that super achiever status that actually isn't helping you. And it definitely is not helping your patients. And I just really wanted to share this message today because this is something that was very detrimental to both my mental health and my physical health, in the form of it coming from malnutrition, all sorts of things that kind of coincided with my need to eliminate my own needs and aspire to these achievement statuses. And so I know that that was just an example from college and all of those things, but I had to do a lot of personal coaching in order to unlearn that stuff so that I could actually be successful, because that overachievement status will never make you successful. I promise you. I do hope that you really internalize that. Where are you finding yourself overachieving or feeling like you need to convince someone of your worth, or feeling like you need to meet a certain standard before you launch? All of those things are keeping you stuck. To adopt that mantra of releasing the control and instead moving forward with those things that you enjoy, those passions that you know you are best suited to help your patients move towards solving their problems, that truly light you up in your dietitian private practice. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If so, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing with a friend.